Insights with Mark Haan. Mark Haan, everybody.
Welcome to Inebriated Insights, everybody. I'm your host, Mark Haan. Joining me, Dave Stratton.
Hello.
And Jarrett Kaufman.
What's up?
Dave, our drinking word is going to be voter fraud tonight.
Great.
Voter fraud, that's great. Let's drink up right now.
Anytime someone mentions voter fraud, we will drink. On tonight's show, Trump's attempted coup continues. Fox News isn't extreme enough for the MAGA crowd, and Mitch McConnell tanks another relief bill. But we begin tonight with the Senate runoffs in Georgia. Senate Republicans and white-collar criminals David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler are campaigning on the premise that they would be a last line of defense against the Biden administration's liberal agenda. But many Georgia Republicans are upset that they haven't done more to support Trump's efforts to overturn Biden's 13,000 vote win in the state, with several even advocating boycotting the election under the belief that the Dominion voting machines are rigged. Yet we know the vast majority of GOP voters will turn out, but do you think that this Republican fever dream could create a consequential margin in the runoffs?
God, I hope so. I do think it's possible. This entire last 4 years, I was living under the desperate hope that the Trumpism would destroy the GOP from the inside out, or at least fracture it massively. And during this election, it really shockingly looked like that was not the case. It wasn't seeming to happen. The House was clearly getting more than we expected. We weren't overtaking the Senate the way we expected. That blue wave wasn't happening other than for Biden himself. But this is a perfect example of where the Trumpism seems to be doing legitimate damage to them. And yeah, I'm seeing these ridiculous claims of demanding a boycott. Now, I can't really know how real the boycott claims are. Enough people seem to have investigated and showed that the accounts claiming it seem to be legitimate voters and Trump supporters and not just like our version of a Russian disinformation campaign. But I still can't get excited about it. But it is intriguing. It's interesting. It's a large enough number of them. And the Trump supporters in general seem like a pretty cohesive, powerful group that the Republicans were not prepared to fight internally. So it might really have an impact, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers.
I don't know. This is nuts, man. I don't think they're dumb enough. I mean, they're dumb, but I don't think they're dumb enough to not like go out and vote. It's just I sure hope so. But I don't know. I don't know who's going to win this election. It's in Georgia. I really hope that that the GOP doesn't, because I don't want any more Mitch McConnell, man. That guy is like public enemy number one right now. That guy is he's just destroying our nation, like just destroying us right now. Like, god dang it, like how we couldn't get a bill to pass, a stimulus bill, and now everybody's unemployment benefits are running out and people are hurting really bad, and he's just like, nah, nope, I don't give a shit.
I just think it would be so delicious if we got to tell Mitch McConnell to suck a dick for 2 years every time he had a problem with something, because Trump couldn't be a normal politician and just concede and start to campaign for them in Georgia. Even when he went down to Georgia, he just talked about himself for 2 hours.
Oh, the devil went down to Georgia.
That's where I was going in
Trump
my
went
head,
down to Georgia. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
And there's no limit to who they will sacrifice to the MAGA altar. I mean, Brian Kemp, the poster child for voter suppression, he's part of the deep state. The Secretary of State is part of the deep state. It's unbelievable. We're going to talk about this later. Fox News is now part of the deep state, because at least during the daytime, they kind of pretend to be a legitimate news organization. They're not nuts enough from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Oh man, I hope this just wrecks it for them. I hope 100,000 Trump voters don't show up and we win.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be unbelievable.
I don't know what their strategy is of that voter fraud. I don't know what their strategy is behind the whole of, oh, let's not show up and vote, and then we'll be sure to win because we can just say it was voter fraud because
they seem to be angry at their own people. Yeah, voter fraud. It seems to be that they're angry at their own people. They're basically trying to get revenge against the GOP who refused to toe their version of the party line.
But, like, why, though? Why are they not going to show up and vote?
I think
the whole fucking system, like, their support base will be gone if they lose this because Democrats will have a very slim margin on the House and the Senate. Probably, like, the most slim that they've ever had. I mean, I'm not a historian, so I don't know. Sure. But, like,
it actually would historically be this. It is the slimmest majority right now in the House.
Yeah, which is nuts. Yeah. And then 51 to 50, and then
50-50.
Well, with Kamala, but
right, yeah, with the tiebreaker.
That's super. Those are razor thin margins there. So
I think the logic, whatever you can call it, that's going on here is a relatively consistent one, which is what we've learned over the last few years is that the primary voting impetus for the really, really hardcore Trump supporter is owning the libs. Like the more I read online and the more actual like psychological research that goes into it, it's not even a joke. It's that is the core voting thing is what can we do that owns the libs? And right now, since they have lost, which they don't believe, anybody who doesn't support the idea that they lost is with the libs. And therefore, owning whoever that is worth it to them. So if they lose, but in the process, they've taught the new libs a lesson. They've taught the GOP who wouldn't stand by them and agree that Trump was screwed and that we cheated. Then they win essentially because they've owned their enemies, and that's all they care about. It's not so much about winning; it's about crushing their enemies.
It's like they don't even have like any type of morals, they haven't had morals in a long time, but
ethics,
any type of base, like just like, well, we're gonna just go ahead and believe the opposite of the liberals, no matter what it is, even how ridiculous it is, even if it's gonna hurt our own base and hurt our own party. That's just the whole logic. It's like, what are you guys even doing anymore? What do you even believe in? It's just like the Republican Party has just changed so much. It's just sad because I have some good friends that are Republican, and I haven't really chatted with them a whole lot about politics lately. But it's just like, I mean, what are these people that are actually like decent, good people that are Republicans? What are they thinking about all this? Like, this is not Republicans anymore. This is Trump-publicans. Do I hear someone trying to undermine the democratic process?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, we had the Tea Party a while back try to split the GOP. Didn't quite pull it off, but did make some weird shifts. And I think the Trump-publicans are massively doing that now, and I think we're going to see some splintering. And it's going to be interesting if we could end up with a bunch of the more reasonable Republicans literally move over to the Democratic Party. And then a bunch of, and either they leave behind what's left of the Republican Party, which is the Trump-publicans, or the Democrats eventually split again into the more progressive wing. Yeah. I think we're going to end up soon with more than just these two.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last gasp for this version of the Republican Party because in 1980, 80% of the population was white. Now it's about 63%. Every election, you have more minority voters, which skew Democrats. Gen Z is the most progressive generation ever. Also very politically active already on TikTok. There's only going to be more and more and more. This is the only way that they can win. And we saw them change the voting laws already in Georgia since this happened, where they're getting rid of no excuse absentee voting. They're closing down polling locations because they realized Georgia wasn't actually a red state. It was actually a purple state. They just didn't let people vote.
Exactly.
And so with that, let's chug it, and we'll go ahead and go on to our next topic.
Oh, man.
Dave.
Yes.
I have some things to say to you.
I hate your face, you piece of shit.
God. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court refused to hear a case brought by Representative Mike Kelly seeking to overturn Biden's win in the state of Pennsylvania with 0 dissents. Not even Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito. Not any of the 3 justices Trump approved. No one. Every state, all 50, has now certified its election results, and on Monday, the Electoral College will meet to formally confirm Biden's victory. At what point do you think Trump will accept that Biden will be president on January 20th?
Man, this is scary. This is a scary thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just never accepted it, and it was just because he's already just in this insane dementia state where he's just denying everything. There's a few things, like you said, the Electoral College is going to meet and vote. No doubt in my mind they're going to vote for Biden, and then all these wackadoos are going to take it to the Supreme Court and try and fight it again. But what we also, another key date that we had to keep in mind is on January 3rd, the House votes to ratify the Electoral College. And what happens, it's not the Congress now, it's the new Congress with these insane QAnon people coming in. That's like, what is the Democrats have, like a 6 seat lead or an 8 seat lead right now?
I think it's 4. I think it'll be 4 initially.
Holy crap! Because isn't Biden keep on pulling people out for his cabinet and stuff? Or
yeah, it'll be 2 once he pulls out the 2 Congress people.
Damn.
Who are in safe congressional districts.
But so yeah, that is I don't believe that the House will not vote to ratify or to confirm the Electoral College vote, but it's kind of scary times. This is like, there's that, I've never been in an election where anybody ever doubted this. It was just like, election night or the day after, it's like they call the vote, or even with like with George Bush, George W. and Gore, it was just like as soon as they kind of called it for Bush, you're just like, yeah, that's the end of that. Now it's just like, I don't know, man. This isn't right. This is scary, and everybody's talking about, he's trying to start a civil war because Texas and all the other fucking wackadoo red states are try to go to the Supreme Court with absolutely no evidence, nothing at all, to try and fight this. It's just, I don't know. It's how, like I was saying before, when you're a Republican, how do you feel about your party just undermining a completely democratic process? Like, all election officials have said this has been the most like secure election, like no voter fraud whatsoever. And it's not like all of the people in charge of the election are all Democrats and they're all polling for Biden. Like, I can guarantee you half or more than half of them are Republicans, and they don't want Biden to win, but they're doing their job, because if they didn't, they would go to jail. If they lied about anything, they would go to jail or they would lose their job. So they have to do their job. I do my job and I take pride in it. They do their job, they take pride in it. So when you have all these nut jobs telling them that they're not doing their job correctly or it's fraudulent, it's just like, no, man, they're on your side. They're just doing their fucking job. Let them do their job. So I don't know. It's the whole voter fraud thing where if Democrats really were trying to pull this off, then why the hell did we lose the House? Like, we didn't lose the House, but we came pretty damn close to it. It's just like,
we did way worse than we planned.
Yeah, it's
we
like
lost the Senate.
This is insanity. Like, people just didn't want Trump because he's insane. Like, and he can't last another 4 years. He's either gonna die or just be completely incoherent. I don't know, but
in some ways, I've thought that this is kind of a good thing, that he, in his delusional brain, thinks that he can still win or win in 4 years, because otherwise, like, he'd be like, I'm going to drop a nuke on Iran and I'm going to break this treaty.
Well, supposedly they had to stop him from doing that because he tried.
He did?
Yeah. Oh, he tried to nuke Iran?
I heard reports that he had to be talked down from that quite recently. I don't know how accurate that is, but still, like, he's been tearing things apart every which way he can already. Like, he's absolutely breaking things on his way out of the office. And yeah, I agree, Dave. I don't think he will ever admit that he lost. I don't think he will ever believe that he lost.
He's a narcissist. He cannot admit that he is at fault. He can admit.
I mean, he could never accept his win last time. He spent the last 4 years arguing that he won by a greater margin than he did, and that there were all sorts of fraudulent votes last time. He has spent 4 years in the White House still believing that there was fraud committed against him when he won.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely positively never going to truly concede this. The most he will concede is that the deck was stacked against him and the fraud was too strong and there was no way out of it. And so he has to leave the White House because everyone's corrupt and is against him.
Yeah,
and he'll run again in 4 years and win.
What's so bizarre about this to me, though, is that in 2016, from all accounts, like on election night and election eve, he was sure he was going to lose.
Yeah, it was pretty
one
clear.
Of his friends, I have a plane waiting for me tomorrow to take me to Scotland so that I can go golfing.
Yeah.
And then the next day he's with Barack Obama because he won. So, like, but now he's sort of shifted his mind to, like, it's impossible. It's mathematically impossible that I could lose.
Yeah.
Just odd.
Yeah, he was. Did you remember his acceptance speech? Like, he had this, like, crappy hotel room, like he spent, like, $100 to like a conference room.
Yeah.
It was just like while Hillary had this glass ceiling building that it was just
he never planned to win.
Yeah. He also talked about, like, on the news, he was talking about, like, his next steps. He wanted to make his own Trump TV network, and
that was the plan all along.
Yeah, it's like this was just a big. The presidential run was a boost in his, like, kind of ratings, basically.
Yeah, it was a marketing campaign. Yeah. It was an attempt to get him much more relevant so that he could leverage that to get his own Trump news network, and that was it. And you could tell when he won how shell shocked he and Melania were. Mm-hmm. They looked miserable, and it's just. His ego hasn't let him remember that and let go of that. It's so ridiculous that he's fighting it because he's hated the experience. Clearly, This is not. It is the most limited thing. Nothing he wants to do. I mean, I guess it's not entirely true because he gets to golf all the damn time, and he still gets to have incredible business influence all over the world.
Yeah,
but he's still been way more limited.
Business, like, use taxpayer money to pump into his businesses.
Let me ask you guys, like, do you think it's more built out of now the fear of the legal fights that he knows he's going to fight in New York?
Yeah, he's screwed. I mean, and I think that's part of it is he's a dead man walking, and he knows if he loses the protection of the White House, all of that comes down on him, and he's seen all of his friends and associates and supporters getting taken down around him, and all of them are being taken down around him for things related to him. So it's guaranteed that what New York has on him, among potentially other places, is massive, and he probably can't escape it because he just doesn't have that much power now.
Yeah,
so
we're going to see
staying in the White House is vital to his survival.
We're going to see some serious shit. Oh, God, I got so... Melania's coming. The blood of the mistresses are coming. Oh, sorry.
Doesn't that remind you of The Shining?
Oh, God, it's off. Or Handmaid's Tale, or just like, it's like this blood is covering these fucking trees right now. This is gross. Why? I don't know. I'm gonna be happy when that lady's gone. And she's probably gonna also divorce him. I will put money on that.
You think so?
Oh yeah, like, she hates him. You can tell it when she's walking with him and stuff. She pulls her hand away from him, and, like, it's I maybe, hopefully, it's just, well, I mean, he's gonna go to jail or he's gonna be in a fucking hospice care. Who knows? It's I don't know. Sorry.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
Okay, I got to hold up. I got to get a new beer because mine's empty. So what's the point of doing this if we're not drinking, guys? Because
that's right.
It's ginger spice beer.
Ooh.
It's delicious.
I didn't know she had her own beer.
It tastes like it's scary spice beer. You're always scary when you're scary spice. Anyways, let's do this, guys.
Do it. This past week, the Washington Post asked every Republican member of Congress who won the presidential election. Only 27 said Joe Biden. A few of them even said Trump. In addition, for the first time, the far-right propaganda network Newsmax defeated Fox News in the television ratings after Fox committed the mortal sin of projecting Biden as president-elect the same day the other networks did. Jet, I don't really have a question, but is this what we're doing now? Is this the Republican Party now?
Yes, and it's the party that they made their bed with. It's not truly the Republican Party. I mean, per what we've talked about before, this is the Trump Republican Party. However, they've done nothing to properly extricate themselves from it. It's too tightly tied together, and there's no difference anymore. So yeah, this is absolutely who they are at this point, and they either have to eradicate it, which they can't do because they realize there's too much power in it, and if they do, they lose everything, or they have to embrace it, and they're uncomfortably embracing it. So anyone who goes against them is the enemy, and that includes, of all insanity, Fox News. And I remember hearing years back from insiders from Fox News that Fox News's internal politics weren't Republican right-wing politics. Their internal politics were profit. And the most profitable angle that they could find was stirring up angry right-wing Republicans and keeping them as their market. But according to insiders, they said if they felt there was more money by switching to hardcore liberal agenda, they would do it on a dime. It's purely whatever gets them their advertising dollars and their viewership is what matters. And however, we reached a line where they were paying enough money for enough journalists who had some degree of integrity. Like, they have a few people on there who actually have a line. And Trump managed to go far enough beyond that line that they were not willing to do it. They were not willing to play their devil's advocate games and play their bullshit. Well, it could be true stuff. Trump was so far from even their willingness to accept it that they said, hold on, no, this is insane. And they weren't willing to do it. And the base had moved so far past them into, no, we will believe whatever we damn well please. We will believe Trump and his positions to the end. And if you don't support that, you're now the enemy. And so, yeah, Fox News is now burned by them, and we're moving on to the most insane next available targets.
But what do you think is the future of Fox News? Are they just going to I mean, I don't know. I can't picture the Republican Party without them. I mean, Rush Limbaugh will probably be dead soon. I mean, not to be mean, but I mean... what was that?
I mean, that's just factual, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think it depends on whether the Republican Party can extricate itself from this group that I would have considered fringe, but is clearly too large a percentage of the party. If this group separates itself because they're sick of it and they go their own way and start their own party, the Republican Party somehow grows a pair. That's a terrible phrase, but it's what came out of my mouth. But if they get the guts to actually separate themselves from these people, or some other weird combination happens, and we're still left with a classic Republican Party, then sure, Fox News has a place there. But realistically, the market that they had and that they held on to and that paid all of their bills, that's mostly leaving them for these others like OAN and the one you mentioned. So with that in mind, I'm not sure Fox News has a future at all long term. I think they could literally just die off if they don't completely reinvent themselves. And I would feel terrible for anybody who buys into any reinvention they have. If they try to reinvent themselves as center or even left wing and they actually get a market, I'm not sure I'd have any respect for anybody who was like, yes, now they're on our side.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to do that. But I mean,
what if a billionaire bought them?
Yeah, or if they sold out to Disney, because Disney owns Fox everything else except for them.
I don't think Disney wants them. I don't think Disney would want to be tainted by them. I mean, they made an effort to remove the word Fox from everything they bought from Fox because they wanted to distance themselves from that as much as possible.
Well, if they could do something political, if they could buy out Fox News and then just shift it more to the left and more centrist. I mean, I don't know. I think that would be a motivation. Like if I had the choice, like just to get rid of that whole. I mean, what they're doing is just it's sensationalism. They're telling a story. It's narrative reporting. It's not. I mean, part of it's factual, but it's just. With all the scandals that have come out of there, it's just like, come on, man. That's just it's too much to handle. But I can't imagine the Republican Party right now without Fox News. It's just they're gonna go off to their more extreme parlors and whatnot, and even that's gonna freaking die. I mean, it's nice being on Facebook right now because like I haven't had any really right-wing feeds coming up at all. I don't know about you guys, but it's just
I have a couple ongoing arguments with some extended family who are still on there, and it's frustrating. But for the most part, it's quieted down. I guess Parler's done its job.
Yeah, it just has.
This is something that I wondered about because after the 18 attorneys general brought the batshit crazy case to the Supreme Court, Mitt Romney said this is madness. And whenever Romney talks, I always wonder if it's based in some sort of principle or if it's some more cynical political instinct that he and maybe Jeff Flake and others have that's like, the party will come back to me. The party will come back to where I am eventually, and then I'll be there and they'll want me. And that's just something that I wonder about, even with these more moderate Republicans, because at one point, like Mitt Romney was in consideration to be Trump's Secretary of State. And when Mitt Romney ran for president and the whole birtherism thing was happening, he sought out Trump's endorsement. So even with the more moderate members of the party, I wonder if that's just a political calculation as well.
What's also as crazy is that a lot of like the key Republicans that we thought of back like 10, 15 years ago, like they're just not there anymore. Like Bonner, whatever, Bonner, and young guy who
Paul
Ryan, there you go. And then you had a couple of old guys, Strom Thurmond and all of them, who died off, and it's just like now you're just left with these just incredibly super far right, almost to a point of being like totalitarianism, like authoritarian type of individuals. It's just that's what you want for America, like this.
I think that's
or whimpering cowards.
They bring cowards. What was that?
Or whimpering cowards.
Yeah.
That's the other. Like it's some combination of people who have absolutely no spine and are willing to just do anything that keeps them in power, which I feel like that's a little bit different from the totalitarianism, or it is supportive of it. It's basically the people who are like, yes, I bow to your totalitarianism.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
It's one of those two things. Yeah,
like they're all going to follow one leader. They're not all going to try to be the leader at once.
Yeah.
There.
Now the classic version of the Republican who was, yes, power hungry, but mostly just business and money, and had some degree of integrity, an internal integrity at least. Because there's plenty you can argue against Republicans throughout history, but there was at least mostly an internal integrity, and that seems to be gone. It just seems to be absolutely.
So it was like John McCain. It's just like, it's funny. All these people that we hated like 10, 15 years ago, like, yeah, that John McCain was a good guy. Hey, look, Mitt Romney's not that bad after all. Like
even Bush, we keep accidentally going, God, I kind of miss George W. Bush.
W looks like a saint compared to fucking Trump.
It's like Bush fucked everything up, but at least he wasn't such a fucking dick about it.
Yeah, and also he cared about people. He just didn't care about himself. He was an idiot.
He was funny.
He was a moron, but like he still cared about the country, and he cared.
And now he seems kind of smart.
Yeah.
Now he seems kind of smart.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to one last question before we rant at the end.
Cool.
Well, we're going to talk about something we've been talking about since May because it hasn't been fixed yet. This week, a group of bipartisan senators, including Joe Manchin and Susan Collins, fuck, I hate that she's still around, unveiled the new COVID-19 relief package that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer referred to as, quote, a good starting point for negotiations, end quote. But lawmakers failed to meet their self-imposed Monday deadline, as Senator Mitch McConnell insisted once again, also fucking sick of this guy being around, corporations be shielded from any lawsuits brought by employees that are put in harm's way. I never mentioned my employer on this program because I doubt they'd want to be associated with anything that I do outside of work, but I just like to shout them out and say they wouldn't be concerned about this because they follow the fucking rules. But anyway, that's tangential. Dave, do you think they'll get anything passed before Christmas?
Definitely not. I'm sorry.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. I don't know. Just how they've been. How long has it been? August, September, since they've been trying to get the. Oh, when did they pass the first one? Was that April?
Well, the Democrats passed the new CARES Act, the $3.4 trillion one in May, and they didn't start talking about it again until September.
Yeah.
Then they just said, fuck it.
Yeah, it's been constant, like, oh, we're going to get a deal done. And then when everybody's hoping, and there's like, oh, that's too watered down. Oh, that's too much. Oh, we're going to have too much to the deficit. Oh, like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know at this point in time. It seems very sad. There's a lot of people hurting right now, and I really don't think there's going to be anything figured out. That's just that's my gut feeling. I don't have any kind of facts or anything. That's just that's just a pattern that's been going on for the last 3 months. It seems like everybody's trying to get something done, and then it just fails because we're broken. Like the whole country is still, our Congress is very broken. But Jet?
It seems like conversations picked up this week, and it seems like there's a little bit more frustrated effort to find compromise. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually do find something before Christmas. However, I have to assume whatever we find will be massively disappointing to everybody involved. But there's been enough talk of some much more reduced things like the $600 stimulus that Trump wanted, but he wanted it instead of extending unemployment benefits. I think if it fails, the reason it would fail is because Trump himself steps in and vetoes it or does something further. It does seem like even McConnell is defeated enough at this point that he has been willing to discuss and take some things off the table that he wants. I mean, he even dropped the defense against employers from being sued for COVID-19 related illness. So, like, the fact that he was willing to finally drop that, to me, suggests that shit's really hitting the fan for him. And maybe he's worried about the Senate runoff in Georgia, that the effect on that might be real. Enough Republicans are hurt by the lack of this happening, and the Republicans have failed to spin the narrative as well as they wanted to just blame the Democrats. It looks like everyone can kind of see that they've got a hand in this.
I feel like the Republicans, I mean, I have no numbers to base this on, but I feel like they're getting hurt more by this.
I would assume so.
Yeah, just because of the red states, their industry and whatnot. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pass something, but it's just a piece of shit. Like everybody gets like $50 and 2 scratchers, and all the money goes to some large corporations and free plane trips or something, some bullshit. Like it's gonna be no unemployment benefits extended and just meaningless $200 sent to everybody, and it's like, that's great, but how is that supposed to pay for my $2,000 a month 1-bedroom apartment in California here? So it's not going to do shit. So I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I wish I was more hopeful because it's so important. I mean, there's so many people who their unemployment benefits are going to end completely, and they're going to be getting nothing. There's so many people who are at risk of eviction. There's people who are going to be drowning in their student loans. And I would love to think that something would happen, but I don't think Mitch McConnell wants it to.
Yeah.
I think Trump would be happy to do something to kind of set him up to announce his 2024 campaign or whatever, if it was a good deal. But I think it's McConnell just because he is the one who is really insistent on protecting the corporations. And I'm sure like half of his party is as well, but there are plenty of moderate Republicans who wouldn't insist that that was in the bill, like Susan Collins or Murkowski or Romney. They wouldn't be like, no, we need to let them fuck people over. Yeah. So I really have no idea, but I hope they do. But anyway, let's
got a question for you though, Mark. Just a second.
Go for it.
What would your ideal package be? And then a follow-up question is, what do you think Biden can do in terms of a relief package?
My ideal package, because people are hurting so much right now, would be continuing the moratorium on evictions. It would be an extension of the $600 a week unemployment benefits. It would be the state and local aid, which both parties seem to agree on, except for McConnell, who keeps calling it a blue state bailout. And it would be direct checks. It would be as much as possible, because economists, both conservative and Democrat, agree we have to go big.
Yeah.
And even the $908 billion bill probably isn't big enough. As far as what Biden can do, not really much, because Congress has the power of the purse. They have the power to appropriate funds. And if McConnell doesn't want to, and if the Senate, and if he drowns it in the Senate, then there's really nothing we can do. He can use the Defense Production Act to like ramp up PPE.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that he's just gonna put the Defense Production Act into work so that we can just destroy the whole pandemic. And it seems like we're on the verge, but not with the right leadership to finally get this shit done. I mean, in addition to vaccines that are coming out, it's testing, it's treatments, different stages of your severity, it's prevention, there's a whole myriad of things that this act could do to try and put to get people better and to not get this virus. But that's my rant. So sorry, Mark. Let's go ahead.
No worries.
And drink here, because that's what we do.
All right.
Then you need a beer.
Jet, we'll start with you. This is our segment. Who should fuck off?
Kelly Loeffler should fuck off.
Good one.
This is one of her homes behind me. It is a lovely, lovely mansion with probably a massive staff of people employed full time in it, which not suggesting that I look forward to them being laid off, but this is absurd for any human being to own. Any human being. I don't think any human being should own a home like this, but especially not a senator who claims to be of the people and supporting the common man and people who clawed their way up from nothing. This is not representative of that, and this isn't even her only home. So this is garbage. She's a trash person for this and for many things. But I don't support anyone with this kind of wealth being a senator and representing people.
But don't most senators? I mean, don't they have quite a bit of wealth, like they've accumulated beforehand?
She's the most wealthy of all, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
If I may be mistaken, but she is at least incredibly, insanely wealthy. But also, sure, fuck them all. Sure, fuck them all.
What'd you say, Mark?
What was that?
I think it's her and Purdue are the richest senators.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Mistaken.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. But yes, if it is true that most of them have a decent amount of wealth, thankfully not all. But yeah, I think they all suck for having that much money. And it's not just jealousy. I think it's an insane thing for any human being to be worth that much money and to have things like this when so many can't come close.
Yeah, well, it's just like we've turned it. What is this? This is an aristocrat society, right? Is that what the term is? Where the wealthiest people rule over everyone? Like that's
I think
an oligarchy.
Is that an oligarchy? I thought oligarchy was when fuck, I gotta go back to my poli sci 101 class. But yeah, it just seems it's sad with money in politics, and I really wish that we could get some leadership in that would just remove it. But that's the whole catch-22, because the people in power want money, and they need different lobbyists and these different like big pharma, big oil. A lot of these people are pumping money into their campaigns. The whole stupid Citizens United thing just screwed everything over, and that's all it is. It's like there's no way to reverse this now. It's just whoever has the most money is going to win, and I wish these grassroots movements will continue to flourish, and I feel with the whole Generation Z that this might happen, but I feel that putting term limits on senators would be a big start. If you could only serve twice or something like that, then we'd get these old fucks out of there, these rich, ridiculous people out of there. It's just, I feel like things are going to change, but it's going to take a long time to change. So, yeah. What are you going to say, Mark?
Well, who's your rant, Dave?
Oh, who should fuck off? God, I haven't put much thought into this week, and I apologize. But for one last time, and I've talked about this earlier in the show, and in my producer mind's thinking like, oh, let's not talk about something that we already talked about. But you know what? Mitch McConnell, that guy's got to fuck off. I can't stand looking at him. I can't stand hearing him. I don't want him in the Senate anymore, and I'm really pissed off that he won again, and that he will be there for another 8 years. But please, for the love of God, Georgia, anybody who's in Georgia, for all 2 people who are watching right now, if you're in Georgia, vote blue. Do whatever you can do. Please knock on doors, phone bank. Please have the Democrats win both Senate seats, because we're not going to get anything done with a split without the Senate. The Democrats need to have the Senate for Biden to actually put anything into action here. It will be only a 2-year period probably. I'm sure the House will probably flip in 2 years, but we need those 2 years to fucking end the filibuster. We need to put more people on the Supreme Court. We need to just destroy push through that Voters' Right Act, end the fucking gerrymandering.
Citizens United. Oh yeah, the gerrymandering.
Yeah, Citizens United is going to be a little tough to overturn just because it's a constitutional amendment. But but there's some real work that Democrats can do in the next 2 years, but it can't happen unless those two Democrat senators win in Georgia. So, fuck off, Mitch McConnell. I hate you. But
there are so many people that I could tell to fuck off for this past week. But I will choose the 33rd governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. At the beginning of this pandemic, when it seemed to be centralized in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Michigan, we heard about how there can't be a blue state bailout and how this was because all of these blue states were so poorly run for all these years. And we wondered if the shoe was on the other foot, if we would hear the same type of rhetoric. And now South Dakota has no ICU beds. If you get coronavirus in South Dakota, they have to fly you to a different state.
wow.
I think it's estimated that 1 in 24 people or something like that has coronavirus in South Dakota, but we still hear about the blue state bailout rhetoric because they don't give a fuck. They don't care. She hasn't shut down anything. She hasn't put any mask mandates on. And the other day, Biden tweets something that's just like a normal presidential thing, which is like, I want everybody to know help is on the way. And she tweets a fucking GIF of Ronald Reagan saying, here you go again, with the quotes of, what was her quote? It was like, oh, government will come in and help you. And it's like, what the fuck do you think your job is?
Yeah.
And then they talk about her as a presidential candidate. Based on what? Like all of these Republican governors like Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem, what would you fucking possibly be running on?
Killing
no
people.
Country in the world fucked up this pandemic worse than we did.
Yeah, we're pretty bad.
And because it's because of Trump. It's because of not putting a national testing and contacting tracing system in place. But it's also largely because of people like Kristi Noem who should fuck off.
Exactly.
Who should just resign in disgrace.
Well,
fuck them all.
It's crazy because it's like other countries have just, I mean, everyone's spiking right now, but there's still like Australia is incredibly low cases. South Korea is still incredibly low. Japan's still incredibly low. And it's just, they followed the guidelines that the CDC is saying is distancing, masks, avoid large gatherings, those sort of things. But yet, no, we're Americans. We need our own freedoms. My personal freedom's better than your health and your life. So fuck you. I want to go out and do my parties, and who gives a shit about you dying? So I don't know.
The rules are simple. They're not complicated.
Nope. Yeah. It's not rocket science. Yeah, and what boggles my mind is that people, I mean, I don't know, I haven't checked in with any of these crazy Republicans, but there's still people who believe this is a hoax and that this isn't that bad and it's still just the flu and all that bullshit. I don't know, like, oh, we can't just cancel Christmas, we can't just cancel Thanksgiving. Like, I'm not surprised there's a huge spike right now. Everyone's saying don't do Thanksgiving, and then everybody gets together for Thanksgiving. That's why there's a spike right now. And before that, the spike was because of all the election stuff, Halloween, people either protesting the election. What was that?
Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. It's going to be worse. It's not going to ease up. Like, this is going to be bad for like another month or two. And it's sad. It's 3,000 people a day are dying. And it's just like, still people are like, man, whatever. It doesn't affect me, right? And so, yeah, I don't know, man. Yep.
Well, let's end on a high note.
All right. What's
if
the high
you
note?
can do anything, if you're in a place to donate, call, phone bank, text bank, please help us try to flip these 2 Senate seats in Georgia because it is extraordinarily important.
Like I was saying.
So everybody do something, everybody do your part. And that's our show for tonight. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jet. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Yes. Oh, wait. 2 weeks is Christmas Eve, so.
Is it?
Well, you know, we could still do a show, but I feel like
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, maybe 3 weeks.
Maybe 3 weeks of New Year's Eve. So
maybe 4 weeks.
Maybe 4 weeks. So maybe we'll see you in the new year, everybody.
Once we're all vaccinated.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes when we come back. But let's take this on out. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
And